All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to another Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great weekend here. Thanks so much for stopping by and joining in here. So like all the other usual live streams, we're going to go for about 2 hours or so. We'll give priority answering. Then when it does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there with the green usernames, they always get that priority answering. If you would like that as well, there's always a link in the description and various other join buttons elsewhere on YouTube where you can join the channel and get that priority answering as well. But I also want to mention before I get started, we have heavy rainfall currently, and we're under a severe thunderstorm warning until 11 o'clock Eastern time here. So if it just cuts out immediately at any point here, that is why. If I just randomly go dark with no notice, it'll be because of that. And if, we're a decent way through the live stream, I probably won't come back on. If it happens in the next few minutes, then I will come back. But so just give everyone a heads up on that here. But anyway, I see we have a bunch of people already joined in here. So welcome to Brian, Omar, Jazz, Linda, Kyle Cars, Anthony, Dave, Chad, Vishal, B. Mitchell, Dozier, so Cam and Swell, Jewel, thanks so much everyone for stopping by. So getting into the first member questions here. So Linda says, anyone watch football earlier today? I'm excited about Monday Night Football. I can't wait to hear Jason Kelsey talk about Travis and the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm curious what everyone else's thoughts are, but I am completely out of the loop on all that. So I don't even know. I think the Steelers are trying to play right now. Probably not playing if this is what's going on outside, but I have no clue how that's progressing. But let me see. Vishal says, what's up, Matt? Finally catching a stream at the beginning. Random thing, 2025 Forester is probably the fastest new gen of car I've seen pop up. They're everywhere already. That's a good point. Yeah, they are popping up really fast, especially around here in the Northeast where, everyone thinks you need a Subaru to survive the winter. But I'd say the other one that really popped up really fast was the new Camry. I see new Camrys everywhere, and that's impressive for a vehicle that, typically comes from a manufacturer that struggles with ramping up production in many cases. The Toyota, all these other new Toyotas, it's like it's taken forever for them to actually, be sold because there's just so little, supply for them. And so I was really surprised to see that for Camry as well. But yeah, same deal with Forester. And Subaru, honestly, to give them credit, they do a really good job of keeping up with inventory most of the time. And so, there is always usually plentiful amount of them on the lots. And, very easy to grab one of any kind of Subaru, honestly, for the most part. It's true. But thanks for stopping by, Vishal. Anthony says, my Giants finally won a good one. Congrats. Hope this is then the end of a great day here for you with the Giants there. B. Mitchell says, greetings, everyone. Busy car weekend up here. I was at a barn find Corvette auction and a truck show in Wisconsin on Saturday. And today met up with the National Military Vehicles Club Convoy in southern Minnesota. That's awesome. Very cool. And the barn find thing has me intrigued if it's a true barn find, even though, I see you have the quotations there. But any of those like Survivor classics are always my favorites. Restored stuff is great as well, especially if it's done well. But true survivors, since the appeal for classic cars for me is like a time machine, having something that is a true, actual time machine, old everything is really cool. So it sounds like a fun weekend there, B. Mitchell. And Dozier says, when do you think Toyota will reveal the next gen RAV4? I don't know. I haven't really heard any rumors about, if there's going to be, usually Toyota does do a reveal around the LA Auto Show, but I haven't heard about anything related to that yet. So I don't know what's going on with, I'm assuming RAV4 is coming next year. We already know, I think they released, pricing and stuff for 2025 RAV4s, which is the same. It's just carryover. So it'll be at 26. We know that at least, or I guess later. There's no guarantee it'll actually be at 26, but I would assume 26 is when we'll see it. I don't know though, when we will actually get a reveal. It could still be LA, or it could be the end of this year, could be early next year. Could be, anytime, who knows? And again, if it's selling really well and Toyota just wants to keep on milking the cash cow, I don't see any reason why they would have to, swap it out, honestly, because you look at how it's comparing to brand new CRV, it still is the top seller. CRV hasn't managed to regain top seller status from the RAV4. I mean, CRV sells very well. I mean, it's not like it's that far off of RAV4, but RAV4 is still the king, even with it being, you know, what, at this point, a 6-year-old vehicle compared to a brand new one. And that's just because of Honda's shortcomings with what they did for a CRV, not having cooled seats, not having a panoramic roof, having a small little screen. You know, all those things certainly, you know, haven't made CRV super competitive, I'd say. But it's holding up well to the Hyundais and the Kias and stuff, which, you know, are fresher and, you know, higher tech with the screens and all that. But so I don't know. I mean, maybe Toyota will try and milk it a little while longer. Maybe we'll see it, you know, in a year or two. I don't know. Wish I had more info for you there. And yeah, but unfortunately, I haven't heard a single thing about a new RAV4, honestly. And Linda says, looking forward to the Camry review. Yes, unfortunately, that had to get pushed back. So, of course, like so anyone who's a member, you know, I post the member upload schedule of, you know, what car reviews are coming for the coming month here. And literally like a couple of hours after I posted that schedule, I had a few wrenches thrown at me and I've had to readjust the whole schedule. Camry review will most likely come early November now, unless I can find a way to work it in earlier. That one I could have bumped up because those week with videos are easier to edit. So I could sometimes have those jump to the front of the line a little bit more. But unfortunately, in the Camry video, I've referenced my thoughts on the Sonata Hybrid that I was just in like the week or two before that. And so the Sonata Hybrid is a full review. So that I have to upload that before the Camry one. Otherwise, it won't make sense if you're hearing me talking about Sonata and you haven't seen a Sonata review yet. So for continuity's sake, they're kind of bundled together. And so as a result, I'm not able to bump the Camry up. So Camry has been bumped a little bit, but it's for a good reason. And I will update members on this to keep it a member exclusive. But I had some cool surprises pop up that are occupying some of the slots in October now that I didn't think were going to occupy it. So October's, it's only gotten better. And unfortunately, that means waiting an extra week or two there, Linda, for the Camry review. But I think it'll be worth the wait because there is some other fun stuff that got worked in here. So stay tuned for those. Vishal says, do you think we'll be seeing more new gen of cars being reworked versions of the current car, like what Toyota did with the Camry? I think so. I think absolutely, especially these days of, again, all these companies having to combine efforts and partnering up on EVs and them all spending a bunch of money on EV development and this giant switchover. You know, it makes sense, especially, again, if we were talking about vehicles that were dying on the vine, weren't selling anymore, they really needed a lot of help, then, you know, I could see there being, you know, a greater need to do a completely wildly new generation. But I think the incremental stuff has been proven to work for multiple companies, not just a company like Toyota, where buyers have a higher tolerance for dated stuff, because that's kind of part of the appeal of Toyotas, is it's tried and true stuff, typically speaking, you know, at least in the past. And, you know, we're seeing this also with Ford. You know, they did it with the Mustang. You know, Explorer is, you know, just a decent refresh. Even Expedition. Expedition, I just posted the video and it's 2025. It is new, but it's not all new. And they kept saying all new everywhere. Even they did the Texas State Fair for the reveal of the Expedition this week. And even they had like a drone light show, which was really cool, of these drones doing all these cool things, you know, related to the Expedition. But they even spelled out with the drones in the sky, all new Expedition. And it's like, it is based on the same old one. And I didn't harp on this in the video because, you know, I didn't want the video to get super long in length. I mean, I kind of hinted to it with like some of the things like the side profile and stuff. But like, it's, you know, I mean, the powertrains are carry over. They did say the frame is new for the Tremor. So there is some legitimate differences there. But as far as the regular Expedition, like, it's a very heavy redo, much like Mustang. You know, it's not like it's copy and pasted, but there are some things most likely, you know, beneath the skin that are probably a little bit of carryover. And that's okay. I mean, I believe the wheelbase is identical, interior space is identical. Like, if it was an all new vehicle, those things always change. You don't have identical interior space. You don't have an identical wheelbase almost ever. You know, so sorry, just a little side rant I had to, but, you know, I mean, I don't blame Ford for that. Just don't call it all new. But, you know, expedition buyers don't need some cutting edge, brand new, crazy platform every 5 years. They can be fine with, the existing thing that works. F-150s, same deal, and I think that other companies are slowly figuring this out as well. And I think they're going to, do more of that, like you're suggesting there. Getting back to the heart of your question there, I think we will see more of that. Absolutely. And I think it's because it's been proven to be successful, and that at the end of the day, I mean, it's kind of similar like the iPhone phenomenon. People still go out and buy the new one just as long as there's a slight tweak or a slight difference. I mean, some people don't upgrade, every year, but like, whenever there's especially a styling change, that brings everyone out to, upgrade a lot of, at least a lot of people. So I think, again, same thing, as long as the look of the Expedition is different enough from the old one and the interior is wildly different. So, I mean, it's a huge departure, and so for most people that does feel all new to them if they don't know the mechanics of what's underneath, and the greasy bits, like just from the outside it's like, well, yeah, it looks totally different, inside is totally different. So I think it's enough to convince the average non-car person that, like, yes, this is a giant change, this is a new generation, and it saves the companies a ton of money to not have to retool a bunch of stuff as far as platforms goes, and especially if you can share things like doors like they did on Mustang. And I don't know about Expedition, I don't know the details of what is carried over and what isn't, but if you can share some of those things, I mean, the amount of money it costs to tool up even just like a cast for a door just to, for the stamping and stuff. I mean, those things are massively expensive. So if you can save a few $1,000,000, carrying over doors and stuff, I mean, that is, it's definitely something worth doing, especially these days, again, with everyone, especially not only trying to save money, but also just with these companies being publicly traded companies that are there to increase profits and shareholder value and all that other crap. It makes sense if you can get away with cutting corners in a way, and there's no detriment to the product, then why not? So great question. Let me see. Thanks for stopping by, Truck and Car Guy and Hugo as well. Hope you had a great weekend too. He says, yes, it's still hot here. That's great. That's crazy, Truck and Car Guy. Sorry to hear. Hopefully you get a break from the heat soon. Carr says, there seems to be a lot of clickbait and fake news online about Carlos Tavares and about Stellantis laying off hundreds of workers. What's the truth behind all the hype? Honestly, I haven't been following it super closely, so I'm by no means an authority on that stuff. And I think that with the Stellantis stuff, there is a lot of fuel to that fire. You do have the dealer letter that, was saying how this is like this disaster from a dealer standpoint, which I also like. Again, remember, we were talking about dealers that were making money hand over fist just a couple years ago that are so greedy that, nickel and dime every single penny they can out of every collectible or remotely collectible vehicle that Stellantis has ever made. And it's really funny how people all of a sudden are like siding with dealers over this stuff. And, dealers, again, if they've been around long enough, they've had struggles in the past. They went through the recession with all the struggles with, at that point, Daimler Chrysler and then Fiat Chrysler. I mean, this isn't, I think I talked about this in a past weekly update. They're not the whole Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler brand. They're no stranger to tough times. They've been there many times before. And, yes, I think the leadership, Carlos Tavares, clearly was trying to take a lot of stuff up market, like Jeep in particular. And, I think they kind of lost sight of, them being mainstream brands, especially Jeep, but also with, Dodge. I mean, it really kind of got out of hand. I mean, even like Durangos, like those Durango Hellcats are now like 113 grand or something like that. I mean, yes, it's, a vehicle that's, on its way out, so they can, try and squeeze every last penny out of them they can. But like, yeah, they're just not competitive from a pricing standpoint in a lot of ways. And that does come down to leadership and pricing it the way they priced it. And I also, the other thing I can say too, I don't know about the laying off of workers. I haven't followed that part, so I have no clue on that. But the other thing that I can say is I was reading about some of the stuff this week about, like they're not selling anything. Hornets are sitting on the lot, 500Es are sitting on the lot. They're, I think, pausing production of 500E for like a month or until November or something now. But then I was like, well, I actually really like the 500e. I have a review on it coming. It'll probably actually be posted on Christmas Eve if the schedule is the way it is, because again, I'm so backlogged. But it'll be fun because it's a red Fiat 500 for Christmas Eve. It's like a little Christmas ornament. I think it's gonna be fun. But anyway, only little scoop I'll give for non-members there as far as the upload schedule. But I actually really like 500e. As probably an unpopular opinion, but I thought it was a really fun little thing. And I was like, I'm just going to see like, what are the lease rates for these things? Just if I wanted to use one as like an airport runner, just like a backup car that just sits in the garage most of the time, just in the rare event that I need a car and I don't have a press vehicle. Like, how much is it for a 500e for a lease? And they still want, like, the newest offer was $199 a month with like $2,600 down, and it's a 5,000 mile a year lease, which actually would work fine for me. I'm like probably one of 3 people on the planet that would be okay with that mileage restriction. But it's like this insanely low mileage lease, but it's still $199 a month, and they're advertising like Ioniq 5s are like $159 a month for the standard range base one, because they're trying to clear out the 24s for 25s. And it's like, would you rather have, even the standard range is still 220 miles of range, way more than like the 150 the 500e is, and it's a larger Ioniq 5 that recharges super fast, that is a really good car, and you can get one of them cheaper, and that's also I think a 10 or 12,000 mile lease for the Ioniq 5. And so, I don't know. I would love to talk to who's doing the pricing on this stuff, but it's like, okay, you're so backed up with inventory that you have to close production for basically over a month, and no one's buying. And I guess they're slowly going to see how many people they can get as they gradually drop the lease downs. But I remember the last 500e, back when it was just a compliance car, 10 years ago or whatever, and that was very limited. It was like California and New York and maybe 1 or 2 other places. I believe they were down to $99 a month. And if it gets down to like $99 a month, then I might be announcing a 500e purchase or lease, clearly not a purchase, but if it's something that cheap, then that's where you get people excited, but not if you're, still charging more than a car that's, way nicer and better. And it's just like, they're not reading the room. And so I think, Tavares has been talking about, we're going to slash prices, this, that, and the other. I'm still waiting for price cuts. I mean, dealers are taking it on the nose. I mean, they're slashing prices, and again, no sympathy for them. But, like, where's the manufacturer support of, like, let's give these gigantic discounts? Even like Alfa Romeo Giulia selling super slowly. I love the Giulia. I also looked at that one this week. How much is the Giulia going for? And they're advertising them for like $450 a month. I'm like, who in their right mind is going to pay $450 a month for a lease on a Giulia when they're all stacked up at dealers? No one's wanting them. And again, you can get, especially with the EVs, you can get a $70,000 Kia EV9 for the same lease rate as, I mean, totally different vehicles, but just like, the Koreans are actually trying with their leases, especially on the EVs. And it just seems like Stellantis isn't actually trying right now. They say, we're gonna have to do this and the other, and then they're not actually doing it. So they're not putting their money where their mouth is just yet. And so I think they need to do more and do more drastic changes to actually save it. But anyway, sorry, I just went on a little tangent there. As far as the clickbait and stuff, I mean, I think I cover pretty well in the weekly news, what's going on whenever it's important things. The layoffs, if it's a couple hundred workers, obviously that's still a shame, but in the grand scheme of things, that is a very small layoff typically. I think that from a worker standpoint, it's like, Stellantis promised to reopen the Belvedere plant that closed, I think, back last winter, that was building Jeep Cherokee. Where's Jeep Cherokee? There's a new generation. Like, in what world do you cancel a vehicle that is selling decently well with no successor in sight, not even announced, not teased? I mean, I think they suggested something's coming by the end of this year, but we haven't heard or seen anything. I think they suggested that the Recon, the electric Jeep Wrangler kind of thing, is coming at some point by the end of this year. We still haven't seen that. I mean, I guess, again, LA Auto Show could really be, the big thing that has a bunch of reveals maybe, but last we heard, Stellantis wasn't doing auto shows. So, I don't know, where all these things are, these promised products. So I don't know. I think Stellantis needs to do more, and they need to do it quick. And if they want to get people excited about, new product coming, they got to start, teasing stuff more and giving status updates on how the progress is on these things. And with the existing stuff, you just got to actually discount it, like real discounts. Read the room, figure out like, you can lease a brand new 330 for this probably less money than a Giulia. That should not be the case. A Giulia should be way cheaper, even though in my opinion it's a fantastic car that's right up there with the 330, but it's old, it's uncompetitive from an interior standpoint and stuff. Like, it needs to be cheaper. So anyway, I'll move on. But I don't know. I haven't seen all the other clickbait and stuff to shoot it down. But if it's anything drastic, all we know is Tavares's contract is up in January of 2026. They're shopping for a new CEO. That doesn't mean they'll get a new CEO. Apparently, this is a normal process that they search for CEOs whenever the other one's contract is going to be expiring soon, just to make sure they have a backup in case they decide they don't want to re-sign or whatever. They could still kick him out by then. We'll just have to see, I think, how the next year goes. But yeah, that's about all that I've seen that's legit. So hopefully it answers your question a little bit. Anyway, I will try and avoid the tangents here a little bit and get back to answering questions. So Hugo says, I went to a car meet and saw a Bullet Mustang and it made me think of yours. Good memories. Yeah, I know. I was driving yesterday and there was a blue California Special that passed by me going down the one hill, and it was doing this burbling and popping as I was going down the hill, and it sounded so good. Reminded me of the Bullets, and yeah, good times. I miss it. And Hugo says, I sent you a picture of it. Thanks for sharing. I'll have to check it out. I must have missed that. And Luke says, my buddy is buying a 2023 Super Double X with 4,000 miles. Congrats to your buddy. That's awesome, and hope he enjoys it. And Scott says, as Mini Countryman coming soon for review. Mini does not send me press vehicles. So I don't know when I'll review, and I might not ever. I unfortunately don't have a lot of Mini reviews out there. So we'll see if they change their tune and ever offer me cars. They sent me one BMW this year, so there is hope that maybe they will someday send me more, but I'm not holding my breath, unfortunately. I have a big blind spot with BMW and Mini currently, and we'll see if that ever changes. Kyle says, I saw a 2025 Equinox active in the cacti green color. I love how they how they look. They added real terrain tires to that. Looks pretty good. Yeah, I mean, they did a really nice job of putting real tires, like you said, and that makes it a lot more legit than a lot of these others that don't really go very far with the tires. They actually gave it a decent effort there, with the active trim, and I think it's a solid little vehicle. They sell a ton of Equinoxes. I think in the car world, like, the Equinox doesn't really get a whole lot of love. Like, it's not a talked about vehicle, but then you look at the sales figures and they sell a ton of Equinoxes. So even if there's no hype and it's not frequently brought up as a discussed vehicle, it's one of those like silent ones that just happen to be in the background but is killing it, and no one really notices. But B. Mitchell says, sorry, but the Corvette collector was a pack rat. Most were driven to where they were parked 40 to 50 years ago, including a first year in 1953. Wow, that is crazy. It says the 53 sold for $92,500 and needed everything. Man, I guess the Corvette collectors are still going strong there. I'm still kind of curious when that's going to age out, because I mean, obviously, like 50s Corvettes always have appeal, but I just, as that generation ages out, are there going to be a lot of people my age that are excited about a 53 Corvette? I don't know. Just to me, like, that kind of an investment seems a little less safe than it used to. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I guess time will tell. But I'm still hoping that in 20 years or so, I'm one of the last people on earth that knows how to drive a 3-on-the-tree manual and and actually wants to and enjoys that. And I can pick up all my classic cars for pennies on the dollar someday. We'll see. Danny says, hey, Matt, I saw a 2025 Chevy Trailblazer RS. I forgot how small it was, and then I realized the Trailblazer now competes with the HRV when it originally competed with the Pilot. Trailblazer did a drastic change for sure, much to the disappointment of basically any GM fan. But it is a small little thing, and it's another one that's kind of a strange offering because the tracks is so much better packaged. But Trailblazer is the only way you get all-wheel drive. And for a lot of people, that is like a must-have thing. And so Trailblazer still serves a purpose, but it's a tough, if you have them right next to each other in the showroom, it's got to be tough from a salesman standpoint. Like, you're paying more to have less space, a less nice interior, but you have all-wheel drive. If I was shopping for those, I'd really question hard, how badly do you really need all-wheel drive versus, what can you get by with on snow tires? And Trent Car Guy says, honestly, the new Camry is a nice car. We're already getting them in our fleet at work. Nice. Yeah, again, they're churning them out at an impressive rate. And Sean, thank you so much for being a member for 27 months now. I really appreciate the support for over 2 years. He says, is there a car you would never review no matter what? And if so, why not? Anything you regret reviewing or how the video turned out? Great questions. I think there's been a few cars that I just would never review just because of like a safety thing. I can't think of a specific example off the top of my head. Maybe like, basically anything that I just think is sketchy. Like, honestly, this was many years ago, but I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Campania T-Rex, I think is what it was called. Little 3-wheeled thing. That's, I guess kind of like a knockoff Ariel Atom in a way. And we had one for the Road to SEMA thing that I did with myself and all the other big YouTubers. That's, we used to do those. If you've been following for a long time, about that whole thing. But so there was a bunch of us, we had, the typical Mopar stuff. We had Hellcats and 500 Abarth and things like that. And then Campania wanted to, get some exposure for the T-Rex. So they sent one of those along in the convoy with us. And I think basically everyone drove it except me. And I was like, nope, I'm good. I don't need to. Anything like that, where if there's basically nothing, no protection from a traditional standpoint, as far as having decent body panels around me and airbags and things like that. I mean, there's some exceptions, like classics, older cars that are obviously still very dangerous in many ways, but, still have some, level of safety to them versus stuff where there's nothing there. I'm trying to think of what was the other thing? The other little 3-wheel, like the Morgan 3-wheeler. That's another one. Would be fun. If I was in a closed environment, I'd be happy to review it. But reviewing a Morgan 3-wheeler out in public with people being super distracted, no, thank you. Absolutely not. It's the same thing why I've never gotten into motorcycles and never will. Because to me, it's just, it would freak me out too much. It's just, I don't trust the people around me enough, and there's nothing protecting me on a motorcycle aside from the extra maneuverability if you're a really good rider. But, for me, it's just my risk tolerance does not accommodate motorcycles. And same thing goes for I had an offer to do the what is it, the Razor? What is the crazy thing that what is it, the Polaris Slingshot? That's what it is. Yeah, Polaris Slingshot. Had 1 or 2 people offer to let me review those. I think actually Polaris themselves said hey, if you want to go to the local dealer, we'll totally tell them to give you one. We'd love to have a review. And I was like, nah, I'm sure it's fun, and I'm sure it'd make for a great video, but that's just something that I'm just not interested in. And that's also the same thing with a lot of modified reviews. If the car is modified to such a degree that it's, kind of sketchy, especially if it's something that, again, I'm driving on streets and a vehicle where, the owner has set it up and they're very familiar with it, but I am not, I obviously could still take it for a drive and be very conservative and safe. And I have done that. V8 Miata this year, the biggest hit of the year, is a clear example of that. And that's why if the risk is, worth the reward, most likely, I had a pretty good idea that Miata video would do well. I didn't think it would ever do as well as it did, but I was like, this should probably do decently well. And this is, this is probably worth the risk. So that was one of those ones. But anything that's sketchy, especially the older I get, the amount of press cars that I have and stuff, the less I'm willing to take chances. And so that's kind of the the main criteria is just if it's a little too risky. But as far as like, if something I've heard, if I've heard a car is terrible or it's garbage or whatever, like I'm still happy to review that, because to me that would make great content. So as long as it's safe, count me in is kind of, I guess, my qualifier. As far as stuff I regret reviewing, I don't know if I actually have a single regret from a review standpoint. Every single review I've done, unless I'm forgetting something, but I mean, every single one I've done has been a good experience. Whether it's press cars or it's dealership stuff or, media events or, the privately owned vehicles, they've always been very nice owners, and, vehicles I've been happy to review. I mean, I think the only ones that I ever regret reviewing are the ones that turn out to be a waste of time and completely bomb. And especially if it's a trip, whenever some of these media drives I go on where it's a 3-day commitment, essentially, because it's most of the time you're on the West Coast or you're somewhere that's a decent flight. So it's basically an entire day just to get out there. It's an entire day of driving and then an entire day of flying home. So I burned 3 days versus, how many car reviews I could film at home here. I could film, 3 car reviews a day if I wanted to, I mean, it's just not a good use of time. So those ones, and this is why I actually started turning down more press trips. I always kind of go back and forth about that, as far as like, well, this is an exclusive thing. Not everyone gets these invites. So if I want to set myself apart from the average newcomer with a GoPro, like I got to go on the trips because they don't get access to that. I do. And so that was kind of my driving force for like saying yes for everything. But then it's like, yes, it's an exclusive thing that, does give me an edge in some cases, but then again, I'm up against an embargo and I got to compete against all your really big guys that are putting out, huge views. And so my stuff just gets buried anyway. And it's a waste of time. It's also makes it harder on, my wife and kid, especially my daughter. I mean, she really doesn't like it when I leave. Obviously I have to do what I have to do for my job, but like, if I don't have a good reason to go on a trip these days, like I'm not going on it. And so I've been saying no to more stuff, or I've been more picky. There's another event coming up here later this month. I can't talk about it yet, but it's one where they wanted to make it a 3-day thing, and it was just a reveal. And I'm like, I'm not spending 3 days to have an hour to film this vehicle. Like I don't have that luxury of time. Some other reviewers and people that have editors and everything else, like they can go and, just take it easy and have fun and burn time for the heck of it. But like, I don't have that luxury. So I'm like, look, how can we do this in one day? And I was probably a pain to deal with, but like, I was like, look, I gotta be in super early in the morning. I got to get out on the last flight of the night. And like, I got to do it in one day. I cannot turn this into a 3-day ordeal. I mean, a lot of these events, they want to have fun stuff and they want to go have you do other things where you actually enjoy the place where you are. And, they kind of set that up for those, again, journalists that aren't in a pressure cooker like I am, but it's just something that, again, I can't, waste that kind of time, unfortunately, as much as I'd love to. So those are really the only ones. Anytime you see a review with especially less than 5,000 views or less than 10, if it's been up for a while, you can safely assume that I regretted filming that vehicle. As fun as it might have been, as cool as an experience it might have been to be in a new place or whatever. Like if it's not pulling over 10,000 views after a week or two, or even a month, like then it's like, yeah, that was a complete waste of time. I would have been better off going to my local dealership and filming anything on the lot and probably getting the same kind of views, or going and meeting up with someone and getting more views, So it really is just, that's the ultimate make or break kind of thing. So yeah, that is that, I think. So again, sorry for the long-winded answer, Sean, but great question. Thanks so much for asking. As far as a video and how a video turned out, though, I don't think there's any, I'm always usually pretty proud of the way videos turned out. There's some where, I'm having to film in the rain, or, conditions where I'm having to be rushed, so I'm not able to do as well as I would have hoped to have done. There's those kinds of things. That's just natural when you're, working with external conditions that you can't control and all that. But that's just kind of par for the course. So I can live with those things for sure. And let me see. So Cam Jim says, do you know if or when you will have the CX-50 hybrid? I do know. I don't think I'm at liberty yet because I am under an embargo. I haven't driven it yet, but I guess I can say it is coming soon. Soon-ish, not super soon, but I guess it's safe to say you'll see it before the end of the year. Probably doesn't help you that much. It's only October, but it'll be coming. It'll be coming here, fairly soon. And yeah, it's gonna be that one. I'm actually really happy because that one they aren't doing a trip. They're just sending it to our house like they used to do whenever COVID was in its height with the lockdowns and stuff, where they just like instead of doing launches when they all got canceled, they're like, you can just have the car for a few days and then we'll all have our turns and then we all wait until the embargo and we all dump it just like we would if it was, an actual media drive. And again, me being a homebody and not wanting to travel anyway, when Mazda said like that's how we're doing it, I'm like, fantastic. So again, can't say when because I don't know how much they're talking about that yet, but I'm just happy I'm not going to travel for that one. And Luke says, what trim level Camry are you reviewing? It was an XSE, is the fully loaded XSE, and is that in that new ocean gem color, which is so good. It's such a pretty color, especially in the sun and stuff. Love it. So yeah, it's a really pretty one. Austin says, hey Matt, how much of a chance is there of Ford bringing over the Puma and Puma ST? Seems like they, never replaced the EcoSport in the lineup. Yeah. I mean, Ford is one of those companies that's really hard to use logic with because they do a lot of illogical things, like never replacing the EcoSport whenever subcompact crossovers are very hot. And that used to be the kind of thing that Ford was very good at, back in the day of just doing, following the trends and competing well in those top segments. I mean, even compact SUV, Escape does not compete well. And I mean, Escape used to be like one of the top compact SUVs. I mean, sure, you always still had RAV4 and CRV, but like Escape used to perform a lot better than it did. And then just got pushed down by the Koreans and their rise and everything else. But like, yeah, it's just like, I mean, Jim Farley just said this week, we're not doing any more boring cars. And it's like, well, you're doing all these crossovers. Like, I don't think anyone thinks the Explorer is exciting, like Expedition. I mean, it's cool, but like, it's not exciting, I mean, so like, it's just like, so if I was using my logical thinking, if it was me running Ford, I'd say absolutely bring Puma over. Like that would make a lot of sense to me. And I think to a lot of other people, I think at this point, Puma though has been out for a good while. So I think if anything, we would see next gen Puma, or if they do some kind of heavy refresh instead of a next gen, or call it all new and, change the styling and a few other things. I mean, maybe that could be brought over. I don't know though. It really seems like they just want to do these iconic vehicles, but how, that's not volume. Like, you can't, I mean, I guess F-150 lets them rest on their laurels a little bit because that's obviously the volume is all the trucks. But like, surely you would think they see RAV4 as the top selling thing outside of F-150. Why don't they want to, compete with RAV4 with a more impressive Escape? Bronco Sport's fine. And that's technically a subcompact crossover, very closely kind of splits the two segments. But, I think that, I guess if you ask Jim Farley that, he'd say, well, we have a Bronco Sport. What do we need Puma for? And I mean, Bronco Sport is fairly small. It's not a huge back seat. So if you go any smaller, that's when you're probably going to have Americans complaining anyway. So maybe that's kind of been the dilemma for them as far as why Puma doesn't make sense. But I still think there is room. I think it makes sense to me. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Ford seems interested in doing things that make sense, in my opinion, at least. But yeah, great question, Austin. And let me see. Justin, thank you so much for being a member for 26 months as well. I really appreciate all of you that are supporting for such a long time. It really means a lot. And he says, hey, Matt, not having a very good day, and I'm going through some stuff at the moment, but always look forward to watching Sunday streams. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope things improve for you. And I hope that the live stream at least, is a little bit of a bright spot in your day. And we've all been there. And, it's especially, with the stuff that's been going on, the terrible storms, hurricanes, there's another hurricane brewing, it sounds like, down there in the Gulf of Mexico and stuff. It's a tough time for a lot of people. So I can completely sympathize, with that. And thankfully, speaking of the storm, I think this thunderstorm has passed pass by because I don't hear any more rain or thunder or anything. So hopefully we'll be good to not have any power outages here. But anyway, sorry again, Justin, and hope you have a good week. Tomorrow's another day, right? Sometimes I got to remind myself of that as well. It's it's always good to know there is another day around the corner. Is fingers crossed, right? But anyway, thanks so much for your support, Justin. Let me see. B. Mitchell says, good point on the new Forester. I saw a metric crap ton of load running around Madison, Wisconsin. Yeah, it is. It's impressive. I mean, especially, Wisconsin, another place I'm sure where, everyone thinks they got to have that all-wheel drive. And, for many of them, they actually do. But that's where those Subarus really kill it. And this is prime time to get them, before the snow starts hitting. Dylan says, one of my former employees is working on a 2023 WX project. He's trying to reduce weight down to roughly 2,800 pounds using lighter materials while increasing horsepower to around 350. Pretty stoked. That sounds like an awesome project. I'm not sure if they like filming or sharing on social media, but that sounds like the kind of stuff that people love to see. So if they ever want to, make a little bit of side money there or something, doesn't hurt to film if you don't mind spending the extra time on filming. I'd love to see, the finished product. That sounds really cool. So yeah, once they're all done with it, send it my way. I'd love to check it out. Mitchell says, Matt, on a side ramp, make that side rant. Yeah. Well, hopefully they're not too annoying. Linda says, so expensive to retool, just give me a break on the price. Yeah, that is unfortunately, yeah, that's the thing, is you would think that if they're going to save money, they would return that to the buyer. Instead, they return that to the shareholder who doesn't need it at all. But it is what it is. I won't go on a rant about corporate greed today. But anyway, let me see. Chad, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, living in Florida, I really hope y'all don't get these flooded out cars at your northern dealerships. Yeah, it's kind of funny how some of that stuff does kind of work its way up here, because I see some used listings every once in a while when I'm searching on, Auto Trader or whatever for stuff. And it's like, oh, let's check the Carfax. And it's like, oh, wait, it's a flooded car from Florida or wherever. And but yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of that stuff. I was even, just for kicks, I was looking at Ioniq 6 inventory because, again, I was curious, what they're releasing for this month. And I saw like there was a couple at like Hyundai of Asheville, and Asheville, as many of you know, probably got hit really hard with those floods. I'm like, I'm sure those cars are probably actually not for sale anymore because they are most likely just destroyed, unfortunately. But yeah, it's crazy. Thank you again, Chad, for the super chat, though. Hope you're doing well. Let me see. So where was I? Vishal says, any Volkswagens coming up for reviews? Yes. So there are a couple coming. Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport is coming eventually. That'll probably be late this year. And what's the other one coming? I will be getting Jetta GLI. So that is going to be another one that I'm excited to, do the refresh of that. I've been asking them for a manual GTI, these last, 380 editions or whatever, hoping for one of those. And haven't had any luck with that. I don't know if they just didn't have any interest in promoting that in the press fleet or what, but I was hoping to do one last hurrah on a manual GTI, and I don't know if that's going to actually happen unless I feel like going to a dealer or, again, someone offers one to me. But that was kind of one I wanted to send off this year, and I might not get a chance to do that, but we'll see. I think those are the only two. I mean, maybe at the end of this year, I may get the ID Buzz because I think those are like starting to arrive at dealers or will be soon. So that's one that I could potentially end up getting by the end of this year, but I don't have it on the schedule yet, so I'm not sure about that one. But I'm hoping to do that one as well because that's one I'm personally excited about. So we'll see. I see 2 is in the house. Thanks for stopping by, 2, and thank you for the very generous super chat as well. He says, Matt or SWF, whoever you are right now, stop letting Peter drop tracks. We're done with the Highland Green album. Also, did you get to cry about Temporary yet? I'm not sure what you're referencing there with the last question, but yeah, he's been dropping his albums there. I guess one album. I'm sure there will be more because he's a very prolific writer. But anyway, yeah, he in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord server and you're a member, definitely get into the Discord server. There should be a member post still. If you have trouble getting into it, let me know. I do need to do a new post because I think the link might not work still. So if you want to get into the Discord server, send me a message. I can send you a link to get you the invite in there, and you can listen to Two's very impressive, slightly AI generated, but still very impressive with all the writing. He did a roast track on me that was hilarious, and a bunch of other ones that are in the, I guess, Matt Moran motoring lore, or I guess the universe, if you want to call it that, of various references to the channel and videos and stuff. So anyway, thank you so much too for the super chat. I really appreciate it, and thanks for for all the awesome songs. Oh, Temporary is Eminem's new song. Gotcha. I need to still check out his new album in general. I've been meaning to and just have not had the time, but I want to. All right, let me see here. Other member questions. Danny says, here's one trim level of the Subaru Forester I want, the XT model to come back. I mean, they can just take the engine from the Outback XT, put it in the Forester, and bam, 25 Forester XT. I know. I've been saying it for years. Ever since XT went away, I'm like, why did it not come back, for the subsequent generations? It just makes no sense. I don't know. I mean, I guess they have the internal sales data. Maybe people just didn't want it, or they just didn't want to pay extra for it. I thought for sure the Wilderness version was going to get it, since that's kind of was the thing for Outback, but then it didn't. And then, of course, I was hoping we would see that with a Wilderness version of the Crosstrek, and then that never got the turbo either. Both of those, I mean, Forester, it kind of had, I don't know if it was really a success commercially speaking, but I think Crosstrek XT would kill. It would do so well. They would sell so many of them, especially if they offer with a manual. That would be one of the cars they would actually have trouble keeping up with demand for. And they're not doing it. Yeah, I won't go on my Subaru rant tonight, but there are so many. I mean, they sell the WRX wagon in Mexico, where I know they don't sell more WRXs in Mexico than they sell in the United States. So why they could justify it for Mexico and not for the United States is another bizarre move that there's so many of those giant question marks from Subaru that make no sense at all. Anyway, let me see. Ford Enthusiast says, hey, Matt, just got back from the from an EV event in, I don't even know how to say that part of New York. Great event. Plan to go again next year. I didn't know there was such a thing. I'm curious to get more info if you want to follow up here as far as, is it like you get to drive various brands? Like, you have to is it open to the public, or is it just like a cars and coffee for EVs or what? But glad to see kind of the EV community come together, because I think it is currently one of those things where you have this common bond of like, a lot of people hate us. A lot of people think this is the worst experience ever. Let's all like joke about how we're loving our EVs and everything's fine. And despite what everyone says in the media and stuff, it'd be kind of a fun bonding event, I'm sure. And actually, it's one of the cool things. Even I know at Cars and Coffee in Pittsburgh here many years ago, before Tesla went crazy, just when it was like mostly Model S's and then the beginning of the Model 3s, where like all the Model S's just like showed up in a parking lot, and they were all like, these enthusiasts were like, oh, like this is a new thing, it's really cool, and they just were excited and sharing that passion with everyone. They kind of had a nice bonding thing together, but then also just in the car community, it was really a fun, back whenever people were more open-minded and less resistant to every single new thing that ever pops up. It was kind of a fun time, I think, and the Tesla owners, especially back then, were very friendly, and completely different scene than what it is right now, unfortunately. But yeah, it'd be cool to take the Mach-E to some kind of event like that and hang with fellow EV enthusiasts. Mike says, could we see a vehicle use the same platform for 3 generations? Current gen Civic bones date back to 2016. Maybe next gen used same platform. They keep improving it. I thought that Civic was a decent bit changed. I mean, I don't think every single part is new, but I thought When I was doing my review on Civic, I could have sworn I remember there being like key structural changes. Um, I mean, there's nothing that is ever truly all new unless you're talking about a brand new startup company that has never done anything before and isn't using suppliers that have anything from anybody else. But I mean, typically, like, there are things that do carry over. Usually, like, the criteria for me to qualify as all new is like a new chassis, whether it's a new generation of the chassis or it's a new um just like actual like big changes. And I think for Civic it was a big change. I believe wheelbase is different. Again, I know that, like, I think like a lot of the pillars and the supports and stuff are different. I mean, sitting position's different. I mean, there's a lot of big differences. I could be wrong. I mean, it's been a while since I did my research on that whole component of it, but I mean, as far as, yeah, could you use the same platform for 3 generations? Absolutely. I mean, I think we will certainly see that. And I think there's a few vehicles that are already kind of, a rehash of a rehash in some ways. I'm trying to think of what has gone 3 generations. I probably need a minute to figure that out. I feel like there is something though, at least 1 or 2, but I don't know. If it comes to me, I'll let you know. But I see 2. Thank you for another super chat. He says a temporary, okay, is the Eminem song, but I did write a song called Temporary based on that idea from a car guy's view, and yes, waiting for Matt to cry to both. All right. Yeah, I haven't been able to listen to all those songs yet because it's been a very busy week this past week, and this next week's gonna be crazy as well because there is a lot more travel coming up here this month, and so I'm going to be in over my head. I'm like, my backlog is like 3 months long at this point. It's the longest it's ever been. Like, it's so bad. I like don't have enough room on my computer to like store all the files. And I'm having to like shift files around and like, and I have a 1 terabyte hard drive and I can't even fit all the reviews that I've already filmed on my computer anymore, and that's been a first this year with that, because usually I've had no problem with that. But yeah, so I will listen to all the songs eventually, I promise, because they've been very entertaining. Just I've tried to pop into the Discord server here and there whenever I can, but haven't had a chance to sit down and listen to all those. So maybe I'll listen to yours too, and then I will listen to the Eminem songs whenever I finally have a chance, and I can compare the 2, and then I'll rank them and see who is the better temporary song. But thank you so much again too for the super chat. And let me see here. So Truck and Car Guy, okay, talking about okay, in response to Mike says the Charger and the Challenger. Yeah, that was always kind of a rehash of a rehash. And I guess I don't know if Dodge called that new generations though. But if they did, then you're right. It kind of, because it was, the first gen, you're right, of the Charger and stuff. And then they went to the full width taillight. And then they went to the refresh of that, which, would be 3 generations if they called them generations. I don't know if they did. Excuse me. But if they did, then that would be it. It's probably one of the only ones. And let me see. Danny says, I want to have a Korean car. And that one car is a 2012 or 2013 Kia Optima hybrid, because the hybrid chime for Kia was very welcoming, and I like how it sounds. The Hyundai and Kia hybrid system is neat. Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, especially for people who don't like CVTs, because it's a 6-speed auto. Yeah, instead of the CVT like you mentioned there. Yeah, and also just the turbo, because most of the others use naturally aspirated engine, and so it's more traditional and punchier setup, I think, for the gas component there for those Hyundais and Kias, and they all have their own unique appeal. I still think the only thing love about them is the handoff from the electric side to the gas side isn't always super smooth. There's sometimes a little bit of a delay because of that automatic transmission that you don't get with the eCVTs. So it just comes down to what you value the most. And Linda says, can you work with local car dealers for reviews? It's free advertising. Absolutely. That's how I got my start. I got my start because I was very fortunate to have friends that owned car dealerships that said, you can drive anything you want on the lot. And if I didn't have that advantage, I would have never gotten the channel off the ground, I don't think, because otherwise it's really hard. I mean, these days it's a little easier because they're really a lot looser about who they give press cars to And dealers are also, you know, more in this like digital age. So if someone shows up with a camera and says, "Hey, I do videos," like they're more open to that than they were 12 years ago when I started. And they're like, "What? YouTube? You post video?" Like it was a whole thing trying to convince anyone of my worth, you know, for many years. But yeah, car dealers are definitely, you know, still an option. And I could easily waltz into most car dealers. I'm pretty confident and, you know, get access to something as long as it's not something that they're worried about putting miles on. But yeah, again, I'm just so buried with cars that if I, you know, was running low or something, that would be an option I would consider. But honestly, like I still desperately want to get out and review all the privately owned vehicles too that people have offered me. But I agree, Linda, if I wanted to do a manual GTI, for example, you know, that would probably be the best way to do it. But yeah, it's something that I would like to do, but if it's not, unfortunately, with how again swamped I am with cars, if it isn't literally being dropped off in my driveway, then I'm not going to bother with it until, you know, again, I get caught up on my backlog at least, which again, I'm sure it'd be good to do that video because that would be a very timely video here at the end of this year. And it would be probably one that would do pretty well. So sometimes that extra work is worth it. But again, I'm kind of at this point, almost like the backlog is so long that if it gets much longer, there's probably gonna be car companies being like, "Hey, like we sent you a car in the summer and we still don't see a video. Like, are you gonna post about it or not?" I mean, you know, because they expect if they're spending the money to send me a vehicle, you know, they expect coverage, and I don't blame them for that whatsoever. Because there's some others out there that don't cover a vehicle. They'll literally get stuff sent to them, and it's just a free rental car, and they don't do anything. These are people who can afford to like not do content and be fine. But for me, you know, I owe it to them for sure, and you know, so that's something I got to make sure I just have to, you know, make sure it's coming out reasonably soon. Like the backlog is so bad that I'm like having to focus and make sure that I get all the 2024 reviews posted in 2024 because I'm scheduling out like basically into February now with just stuff that I have. Like I'm that backed up, and so like I'm having to like shift reviews around, be like, okay, like I gotta make sure I get this one out before December 31st because it's a 2024, and it'll look bad if I'm posting a 2024, you know, model year car in 2025. So that's that's how crazy it's gotten. And B Mitchell said, so just 300 of the 1953s were made, so stupid money reigns. On the other hand, 92.5 now will get you one of the best 1954s on the planet. Gotcha. Okay, so that's kind of the appeal. I see. Interesting. I even wonder though, like for museum pieces, like, you know, are people going to show up at like classic car museums in 20 or 30 years? I would hope so, but I don't know. I mean, maybe there's more old souls like myself out there that, you know, connect with that stuff, but I don't know. We will see. And let me see. Danny says only one who likes trains. I love trains. I used to love trains, especially as a kid. So I'm not a train spotter. I know there's a whole like, you know, community around that whole thing, but I do enjoy trains. Chad says, when I was younger, I always wanted a motorcycle. After seeing how people drive, the repercussions for motorcycles, I'll never follow that path. Yeah, and it's sad because I mean, I know I think Raphael, I'm not sure if he's in here tonight, but he just did like a almost cross country motorcycle ride. Sounded like it was a fantastic time. I'm sure. I mean, people I've talked to, like there is no comparable car. You know, it's the ultimate rush in all the ways, I think, and especially for, you know, an enthusiast, it's just, yeah, you got to have the risk tolerance for it. But yeah, like I said, I'm right there with you, Chad. And Spy Harpy says, VinFast, I thought you reviewed one before. I remember the review was not so good as it felt unsafe compared to the others in this class. I haven't reviewed a VinFast. Others did. I remember talking about it in live streams and stuff, but I have never reviewed a VinFast. I would these days. I think those early ones, you know, are definitely rough. It sounds like they've made some improvements. I wouldn't jump at the opportunity just because I don't think anyone would watch it, to be honest, unless it turned out to be a complete disaster. But, you know, it's just one of those vehicles. There were some where I still just turn down cars. And I'm like, no one's going to care about this. I mean, there's some surprises sometimes, but like, pretty confident of VinFast would get no views. So yeah, I'm not gonna go out of my way for that one. Linda says, you're such a good dad and husband. Bravo. I appreciate that, Linda. I try my best. And Good Stick says, Honda, like Ford, are making some weird decisions, especially with them canceling base models. Hondas and Acuras will be similar prices. Yeah, I know Honda's same deal. Why do we not have an all-wheel drive Accord? Why do we not have an all-wheel drive Civic? Why, don't we have a more powerful HRV? There's a bunch of good questions for sure. And yeah, I could just go on and on, but why is Passport never anything more unique from Pilot? There's a bunch of stuff they just kind of phone in, unfortunately. And Danny said, hopefully the two big American locomotive manufacturers. If you don't, they're EMD and Electromotive Division used to be part of GM and GE or General Electric. Nice. Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with trains in the past couple of decades, honestly, so I wasn't familiar. But yeah, it used to be fun though. At the dealership that I used to work at, we were on train tracks pretty much, and they were ripping through there at 40 or 50 miles an hour. It was pretty impressive to see them a couple feet away going that fast. And let me see. Good Stick says, today I went to my local mall and sat in the new Model 3s. Good improvements overall. That's my Model Y, especially the ambient lighting, as my black interior can get very gloomy at night. Nice. Yeah, ambient lighting is great in everything pretty much. That's one of the new fads, I guess you could say, from the past 10 years that I really have enjoyed being, more widespread. Yeah, it sounds like they're really solid improvements for all the Highland stuff. Hopefully we see it soon for Model Y. That's another one that's why is this taking so long? But yeah, it is. It sounds like they're really good improvements and, fixed a lot of the things that a lot of people have been wanting for a long time. So yeah, it's, I saw a Cybertruck today, a black one that was driven by a high schooler or something. It's man, that is, one choice for a high schooler. I could either go very good or very bad, I guess, depending on what high school you're at. But very interesting choice for a high school driver there. And let me see. Thank you so much, Kyle, for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate the generosity. Happy to see people able to grab those. And thank you again, Kyle, for the continued generosity. Every single week, Kyle is supporting the memberships there and helping a lot of people to continue to be members and stay members. And thank you so much, Kyle, for that every single week. I'm happy to see everyone else saying thanks too. TFIPW, thank you so much for being a member for a month. He says, hi, Matt, longtime listener, first-time caller. Shout out to Mitsubishi for the 114% sales increase of the Mirage for 2024 King of Shitboxes. Right, yeah. It's, I don't know if that's just maybe a phenomenon of people realizing that it's going away, so they're trying to, grab them while they can, or if it's just, I think, also a symptom of people being burned out about and just coming to grips with the fact they don't need to have, some giant crossover and they can get by just fine in a Mirage. And I got to respect Mitsubishi for, sticking to that. Speaking of cars that have been around for 3 generations with the same platform, that could probably be one of them. I'm sure Mirage, because I feel like Mirage dates back to the 80s. I'm not sure exactly when it got a new platform. I've never bothered to pay enough attention to Mirage to know any of that stuff. Maybe you can give us some insight, TFIPW, but just the dimensions, the engine, there's no way that was developed in this century. It must date back to at least the 90s. Early 2000s would be maybe possible, but I don't know. Even it just seems like if you were coming out with a brand new subcompact thing, even in the early 2000s, you still would have gone bigger than Mirage. You would have gone Honda Fit, something like that, which is a tiny bit bigger, I think. So I don't know. Not trying to talk trash on the Mirage. It'd be fun to take one for a spin someday, just for kicks. But yeah, I do have to respect them for, if you want the closest thing to what it was like to drive stuff in the 80s, Mirage is it. And I kind of mean that in a complimentary way, as a simple, no frills kind of thing. It has the basics these days, but if people who can live with under 100 horsepower, crazy idea. But majority of the world did it for, over a decade, and, did just fine. But anyway, let me see here. Other questions. Where was I? So, Luke says, Nissan kicks the competition right in the tracks. Oh, Nissan kicks the competition. Gotcha. I missed the joke. Nissan kicks the competition right in the tracks. They do. I really think they do, unless you're okay with front wheel drive, in which case the tracks is still the better value. But if you need all wheel drive, yeah, then Trax is automatically rolled out, and Trailblazer is not a good competitor to Kicks, in my opinion. Kicks is definitely really good, and honestly, I'm really happy that video is actually doing well. Just because obviously it's always nice to see a video do well, but like to see that a lot of people are actually interested in that, to me, is encouraging, because I think, one, Nissan could really use the win, and I'm happy to see that they put out a really good product. It's not even like I'm trying to like help Nissan. I mean, it's not my job to, promote the company. I'm just there to do an objective review on the car, but I'm happy that it was really good. The only thing was, the rattling under the hood there. The engine was kind of noisy, but outside of that, it is really, I was shocked. I was truly shocked at the interior, especially. More soft padding in that Kicks than a BMW X5. And I'm not exaggerating. More soft padding in the Kicks than the current X5. And I mean, that's not like the end all be all of like a plush interior. Obviously materials and fit and finish and stuff matter too. But, I don't know how well the Kicks will hold up. I mean, time will tell with this new Kicks, but man, it's a nice car. Like, really nice. And I never thought I would say this, but if I needed a small little all-wheel drive crossover, I would absolutely go for it. I would take it over a Crosstrek. I would take it over, again, majority of the stuff out there right now, but it's just because I enjoy a plush interior. You don't actually need a ton of horsepower. And if you actually need the space, I really liked it. I still think CX-30 is my favorite in that segment, but it's, a good bit more expensive. And when we're talking about that price point where a few $1,000s is a big deal, the Kicks really, they priced it so well. And that's hard to do these days. Again, there's other companies that everything's ballooning in price. The fact that it's top-notch product, really good price, and good styling and all that as well, it's really, really good. So I know you probably weren't looking for a side rant on the Kicks, but yeah, I'm really impressed with it. And Goodstick says people hate on the Juke, but the Juke started the whole subcompact SUV segment, and it's selling very well now. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a very popular segment, and it's, I think a lot of it also, it's popular because it has grown, and all the vehicles in that segment are kind of getting a little bit bigger, and everything kind of creeps upward and, gets, bloated, and then it kind of bumps into the next segment, eventually. But, I think it's really great to have these little vehicles that give you that high ride height and give you the extra capability, but don't have to be a gigantic vehicle that weighs, 5,000 pounds. And Luke says vehicles that have wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, but no wireless charger sort of defeat the purpose, in my opinion, especially on a long trip. I've heard a few different opinions on this topic. I think personally, I don't care about having a wireless charger because most of them are crap. And if I'm on a long trip, I'm plugging in anyway, because even the best wireless chargers that I've used can't keep up if I'm running, especially Waze. And they get so hot because wireless charging gets it hot. And if you're running navigation on your phone, that gets your phone hot too. And then it just gets too hot, and then it just, quits charging because it's too hot. So in my experience, if I'm on a road trip, I'm plugging in no matter what. The wireless thing for me, the biggest convenience is just being able to hop in on short trips where I don't want to fumble with a cord because I don't care that much, but it's nice to have it in case a text pops in or whatever. And that's kind of, to me, the beauty of it is just for those short trips. Wireless charging is getting better though. I think Hyundai and Kia, their brand new design is really good. I think there's some others that are, the newer ones that are really well done, where they're at an angle, they're rubberized, and they have brackets. You need all three of those, in my opinion. The Hyundai and the Kia one's flat, but it's so rubbery that even with cornering aggressively, it seems like it holds in my phone pretty reliably. But a lot of these wireless chargers are not worth even getting. They're complete crap. I mean, the Toyota ones are some of the worst ones, in my opinion. So if Two is watching, Here, listen, I'm bashing Toyota for a split second. Their wireless chargers are garbage because they are smooth. They're not even rubberized. It's a smooth, flat surface with no brackets. There's not a hope, and also the like little induction pad is tiny. Some of these newer ones are like having a bigger induction pad to actually charge without you having to pinpoint exactly the right spot. But like try wireless charging in a Toyota, it's never going to happen. Like you will never get a reliable charge for more than a few minutes unless you are driving on the straightest highway in the world and you never even hit a bump. It's so fragile in those Toyotas. And there's a lot of others that are just as bad too, but the Toyotas always stand out to me. Every time I get even a brand new Toyota, I'm like, yep, this is still crap. Like still can't count on this to actually charge my phone. But yeah, they're figuring it out. And I just read a survey recently. Wireless charging pads are like one of the top 5 features people look for in a car right now. I believe it might be top 10, but I think it was in the top 5. Actually that was informative for me because I'm like, okay, I need to focus on talking about that more in the reviews because people, it seems like, really are worried about wireless charging pads in cars now. So I'm going to focus on that more. And this is why you're seeing some car companies actually doing dual wireless charger up front and doing, 2 of them. Some even are starting to put them in the back in some of the luxury cars because they're following what the trends are. And the trend is that people really want wireless charging in their cars. And so that is something I'm going to keep focusing on more. But yeah, so I should make a pros and cons list of like all the best wireless charging pads in cars and all the worst. If I had the time, that would be add that to the mile-long list of good video ideas that I need to do someday. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because I've heard other people be like, "Oh, like wireless is stupid." Like, yeah, I just plug my phone in anyway. Like, what's the whole point? Wireless is less reliable and this, that, and the other. But like, I love wireless CarPlay. Danny says, for anyone here into trains, sorry for being off topic, but I love the CSX C40-8. Yeah, I can't comment, but if there's any other train fans in here, definitely connect with Danny there. You guys can enjoy your love of trains there. I do love, we have a great miniature railroad at the local science center here in Pittsburgh, and it's a fun tradition every year around Christmas time to go down and see it. It's really well done, and my daughter, gets a big kick out of it. So it's a fun thing. I think I'm more into the miniature stuff than the life size stuff personally. But Zachary, thanks for stopping by. Zachary says, is the Nissan Z on a new platform or is that a multi-gen carryover? That is probably another one that's 3 gens. You're right, because it's based on 370Z, which was based on 350Z. So that is 3 generations. Bingo. Thank you, Zachary. So we have Charger, we have the Z, and then possibly Mirage. So teamwork. We're doing it. Yeah, that is another one, I think, for sure. And unfortunately for Nissan, that one hasn't worked out for them, I think, because again, I think I've seen 2 Zs this whole year so far on the road. Very rare. Good Six says new Tesla models are a good bit different from the original models. If you look at a 2012 Model S to a 24, it's very different. Yeah, they've definitely improved them a good bit. And I just wish they would I don't know, just change the styling more on the outside, for the Model S, because I don't think they've ever done enough to really, move the needle for people who do want something that looks new. But I guess they'll do that someday. We'll see. And Danny says he loves trains. They've been a part of his life since he was a little kid. That's awesome. Yeah, and I think a lot of people really are into just mechanical stuff in general. Trains and cars probably have a lot of overlap there. Sorry, I missed the other super chats that came in. I apologize, everyone. So Chad, thank you for a super chat. He says, back in the day, I had a friend with an old tank Volvo back into a 90s Mirage. Their tailpipe went straight through the trunk at 5 miles per hour. That is impressive. It's the first I've heard of that. That is wild. Yeah. Mirage, I mean, physics just isn't on your side with a Mirage, So in addition to the fact that it sounds like the tailgate was made out of cardboard, at least on those 90s ones, that is it's interesting. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Chad. And 2, thank you for another super chat as well. He says, does the new Kicks shift the Nissan lineup? What does the Rogue Sport have to offer to be different to it? I think Rogue Sport has been gone for a couple of years now. We didn't get the new Qashqai that the rest of the world got as our Rogue Sport here, because I think Kicks they knew was going to kind of grow a little bit and fill that void. So yeah, I think there is no Rogue Sport, and I think it does really, yeah, shift the lineup. Kicks now is taking that spot. I think Rogue will still stay where it's at though, and everything else really hasn't shifted. I don't think, but certainly Kicks has shifted that a little bit to kick out Rogue Sport, which I think Rogue Sport. If I have to think back of like least impressive vehicles, Rogue Sport definitely ranks up there as one of the most bland things that I've reviewed. And I think I made it pretty clear in the video too, where I was like, this is not exciting. I mean, it's, fine transportation, but just the way it was set up was so boring. And actually, while we're on the topic of Nissan and boring, I actually currently have the Altima all-wheel drive, the 2025. They're doing like a new like SV special edition kind of thing. And I will save all my gripes for the video with that. But that's another one that, like, I don't know. I just had the Altima with the turbo last year, and that was fine. I actually really enjoyed running around that thing. But without the turbo, it is the way they tuned it, at least recently. I don't remember because I did an all-wheel drive Altima back in 2020, and it was fine. But they must have done something to the tuning between then and now, because it is like some of the most dead throttle response I've encountered in at least 5 years. I mean, it's like you got to go like half throttle to get any kind of response out of it. It is bizarre. Like, I actually looked to see if like the gas pedal was like stuck under the floor mat, or if it was like jammed in between the floor mat or something. Because I was like, is this the way this is supposed to be? Like, did someone like put like bad gas in this thing or something? Like, how? I don't know. Again, I'll save my rant for the video, but yeah, I don't know. I actually really liked, again, last year I enjoyed the Ultimate Turbo. It was good, and I thought it was a really solid alternative if you get a good deal on it. But now I'm like, man, if Ultima's actually going away here in a year or so, I don't know how many people are going to miss it. If you test drive a 25 and it feels like this one does, you're probably not going to be running out to buy it. I don't think it's not as good as I remember them being in the past. Anyway, thank you too for another super chat there, and thank you, Robert, for a super chat as well. He says, "Hey Matt, hope you're having a nice Saturday or a nice Sunday. What are your thoughts on carbon fiber in general? Overpriced and overrated, or totally worth the price?" In general, I'm not a huge fan of carbon fiber personally. I think partially just because it is so overdone, and I think also not only overdone, but just because it's been over applied in like the wrong vehicles. And so I think, if you are actually talking about stuff that is made of carbon fiber, that has a true lightweight purpose, like the carbon fiber wheels on the Shelbys, were amazing. True carbon fiber that is on a vehicle that is focused on actually, being lightweight, or, focused on performance. Those are where it's really exciting, like the McLaren Artura Spider that I reviewed, like that having carbon fiber, really cool. But then like the Aston Martin DBX I just reviewed, that had carbon fiber, and it was like tens of thousands of dollars for like carbon fiber all over it, for the front lip, the rear diffuser and stuff. I'm like, we're talking about an Aston Martin SUV that, it's heavy. It's, not, I mean, yes, it is very sporty, and it's one of the, fastest SUVs I've ever driven. But do you need carbon fiber? Does it actually do anything? No, because it's add-on parts that are adding weight. Even if it's lightweight, they're adding on weight. And like, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it. Even in exotics and stuff, though, like, from time to time, if I hop on a configurator to build, my dream Ferrari or whatever, like, I usually just go for like the gloss black stuff. The only time I like carbon fiber is if it saves the finish, because sometimes if you're talking about like high stress, high damage areas, where you have gloss black plastic getting really banged up, I think carbon fiber sometimes can be a little bit better for that. But I just overall, yes, I'm not a huge fan of carbon fiber personally. I know some people, they just like want to coat everything in sight in carbon fiber, and I'm just like, I don't see that kind of appeal personally. I've never been into carbon fiber, as far as an accessory or a accent kind of thing. Again, no knock to anyone who does. It's just one of those subjective things. Everyone likes different looks. But for me, yeah, carbon fiber has never been like this, like drool worthy thing like it is for some people. And I have friends that are like obsessed with carbon fiber as well, and just not me. So yeah, fun question though. And thank you, Robert. And especially though for brands that are charging giant amounts of money for it, not worth the price unless you got the money to burn. It's tinsel, it just makes it look nicer. Unless we're talking about those carbon fiber wheels and stuff, it's not making any kind of real difference. So, you're better off saving the money if you're worried about saving money. And let me see. Other questions here. So Ford Enthusiast says, talking trains, I thought this was a car channel. Right, yeah. I won't dwell on the trains too much here. But Dave says, Matt, if you had a cheap barn find car like you'd see on VGG, dirty, rusty, needs work, to what degree would you restore? I think for me, with a barn find, the way I would do it, that's a great question, Dave. I think I would obviously make it roadworthy. So I would want to make sure that it is, safe to drive, good to drive, and I would, just fix anything that needed fixing from as long as I could daily drive it. So any kind of holes that needed patching, any kind of glaring issues with trim or glass or, those types of things, I would, swap out. But as long as it was a safe, reliable, relatively speaking, daily driver, that's kind of would be where I would get it. And then I would leave it there. I do have to say, like with Survivors, I love Survivor cars that have been well kept and aren't basket cases. I respect the basket cases that they've made it that far, even if they're banged up and, rough around the edges. But the favorite Survivors for me are the ones where, like, they were unfortunately garage queens, for the past, 50 plus years, and, are still like original paint is still shiny. A patina is cool. And I wouldn't, completely close myself off to the idea of driving a car that's got patina and, looks rough like that. But I just want something that's been well cared for its entire life. As long as it's, again, safe and all that, I just would want to have something that looks basically as close to being brand new as possible, but without being restored, I guess. But yeah, for a barn find, I would just, I'd want to keep that patina for sure. In that case, I wouldn't want to repaint it or anything like that. So yeah, that's probably, I also would want to make sure that it didn't age worse. So I'd probably like put a wrap over the patina or something like that, or, clear coat or something, just to try and, make sure it doesn't get any worse, and just kind of preserve it at that point. But yeah. Let me see. Trucking Car Guy says, we have a few Mirages in the fleet. It's an easy car to toss around since it's so light. Yeah, I'm sure it's fun for that for sure. And I'm sure it's cheap to maintain, it's great. Shane says, let's give a round of applause to Mitsubishi for the 114% sales increase and welcome the 3 new Mirage owners. That's a good one. WNY says, I had 4 Mirages and they were all great MPG rides. I loved them. They fit 4 people very comfortably inside, much better backseat than the Sparky. That's true. The Spark was very cramped for sure. And yeah, they do get great fuel economy. I know my brother-in-law used to sell Mitsubishis, and he would tell me about Mirages. So there's people that really love them. So I'm glad it works for a lot of people. And TFIPW says, South Park Mitsubishi has a Mirage in their used inventory if you want to expand your backlog. Video title, My Week with a Mirage. I didn't like it. Right. Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, it's I've had many opportunities to get into a Mirage at South Park Mitsubishi in the past decade. But yeah, it's one of those ones I haven't ran out to review, I will admit. But maybe someday, we'll see. Good Six says, Toyota used a 4-speed until 2015 with the Corolla. In 2016, they switched to the CVT. Yeah, it's impressive that Toyota stuck that out as long as they did. It is, same thing. I'm always blown away by the amount of people that are still buying 2024 4Runners. And I guess these days, with the unknowns, with this new powertrain and stuff, it makes a little more sense. But before the new one came out, it just kind of was amazing to me, the amount of people that were still super excited about that dated vehicle. And, you know, again, there's an appeal there, though. People who know what they're getting, they know it's a known quantity. There's no surprises there. There's certainly an appeal there, and I can understand that, but it still just kind of was amazing to me, the amount of people that still buy very old, brand new vehicles. And Nathaniel says, the interior blew me away the first time I seen it when it was revealed. That alone will win me. I'm guessing we're talking maybe kicks as well, but yeah, it's an impressive interior. Danny says, speaking of the Mirage, a couple in Minnesota put 414,000 miles on a 2014 Mirage hatchback. And it was through 6 brutal Minnesota winters. The car was named Purple One after Prince. That's impressive. That's a lot of miles. I mean, I guess, yeah, if it's great on fuel, it's a great little vehicle for, you know, running errands or, you know, whatever you're doing with that kind of mileage is impressive. That's crazy. And TFI says Mitsubishi brought back the 90s hatchback that enthusiasts wanted, for better or for worse. Yeah. I'd love to see Mitsubishi do more retro stuff for sure. And Vishal says, Car Confections posted a video on the 2025 X3. What a hideous car inside and out. I saw that. Yeah. I mean, I think the exterior, to me, I'm slowly getting used to it. I don't love the back end still, but the front end I can stomach. But yeah, I mean, at least, you know, there's some hope for BMW now that we know their head styling director is moving on to Rolls-Royce. You know, at least that it's going to be an improvement for BMW eventually, but that'll be a while before that, you know, actually takes effect here from a product standpoint. Danny says, given a brand new Mirage from Mitsubishi, or given a brand new Mirage from the Mitsubishi dealer, actually, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're talking about the South Park Mitsubishi connection or what, but yeah, they're Mirage is a funny vehicle. I mean, clearly there's a lot of interest here on Mirage, at least from a discussion standpoint. So maybe it would actually do well from a view standpoint. That'd be funny if it did. But let me see. Chad, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, why did Hyundai put a dual clutch in an off-road brand trim? I watched Santa Fe on TFL, and it's a bad choice to me. Yeah, you know, and I kind of talked about this a while in the past where, you know, I think for Hyundai, maybe the justification was they really wanted to do a dual clutch for the end products. And they wanted to have, you know, this really high-tech transmission, but the only way they could justify it to the board or whatever was to say, we're going to put it in everything and spread the cost out. And so it was like, you know, because they wanted to have that dual clutch in Elantra N and Veloster N, they had to put it in everything else. But I feel like Hyundai is definitely regretting this decision. And, you know, the new Santa Fe would have been a prime time to swap in the 8-speed auto. And they didn't, you know, so I don't know. It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea for Santa Fe. It's not a good idea for Santa Cruz. Honestly, with the way that dual clutch is not handling power very well in anything, it seems like it's just a bad idea in general. Maybe it's better in Elantra N and Veloster N. Maybe they've been beefed up better in those, but for the regular stuff, yeah, it's not a good choice. It's one of the few oversights that Hyundai and Kia have unfortunately, you know, put their customers through. I think they make some really top-notch products in a lot of other ways, but that transmission just seems like I mean, in my experience, it's been fine. Sometimes it's a little laggy, a little bit rough, but it's never been horrific, you know, but unfortunately it just seems like there's just more bad than good out there, at least as far as social media is concerned for that transmission. I mean, I'm sure, again, there's tons of people driving around in dual clutch Hyundais and Kias getting from point A to point B, and I'm sure some of them are fine. You know, it's obviously the ones that have issues that are going to be the loudest on social media complaining about it, but still, yeah, it is a bad choice. I agree with you, Chad, and I'm not sure why they continue to stick with that. I guess they just probably have a supplier agreement they can't get out of, and they have to stuff it in stuff for the designated, you know, commitment time that they've, you know, agreed upon. And then the second they can dump it, I'm sure they will. But at this point, I'd almost take the hit, and it's doing so much damage, I think, to the brand that they're better off if they still have a million more of those transmissions they got to take from the supplier or something, melt them down and recycle them into something else and just take the hit. I mean, I'm sure, again, the money would be gigantic, but you kind of have to run that equation. I'm sure someone in Hyundai probably is, of like, at what point can we like take a financial hit here and it actually will be less of a hit than what we're dealing with right now with warranty claims and stuff, So I don't know. We'll see. But I agree, Chad. It's not a great choice. And let me see. Where were we? So Mike says, what about Kicks versus Corolla Cross? Well, I kind of alluded to that in the Kicks review. I said that was kind of the strongest competitor from a base level standpoint, because Corolla Cross is the next cheapest one from a front-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive standpoint. And Corolla Cross is nice. I mean, it's a Toyota, so you have that quality that most likely will hold up very well. Possibly better than the Nissan, maybe not. Well, again, time will tell. But historically, Toyotas last longer than Nissans. So if you're buying long term, I'd say Corolla Cross is probably worth $1,000 or $2,000 extra. Corolla Cross is very well done too. It has a large hatch, good amount of back seat space. Just the interior is kind of dated at this point, and the Kicks is just wildly nicer inside. So if you're talking about short term. If you're not keeping the car forever, I think, the Kicks is definitely the nicer of the two. But if you don't care about that as much, you just want something that's going to be durable and utilitarian, I think Corolla Cross is the better choice for that kind of a buyer. But both are great. Let me see. Dave says, Nissan's improved a lot starting with the latest Sentra. Do you think it will make it back to where they were in the 90s to 2000s? So, I mean... I think it is starting to get better. I think my only concern for Nissan is they have a lot of really good new gas products coming, but we know the next stuff coming is electric. We have, is most likely going to be a Maxima return for a electric sedan. There's going to be an electric SUV. There's going to be Infiniti versions of those. And that's where I'm concerned for them, because I don't love Aria. I think Aria is, in my opinion, actually one of the least impressive EVs in their segment currently. Especially just brake was the brake response, the throttle response was horrible. Just like not very good. The Aria was one of the vehicles I actually disliked driving. Like not just like mildly annoying, but I was like, this is actively annoying me every time I drive it with the Aria. So if they continue with that kind of tuning strategy and that kind of a setup, I don't know if the Maxima and whatever else is coming are going to be top-notch competitors in their segment. And I think that could be a big miss and a giant waste of money for them. I mean, they have to do this transition like everybody else does, but they need to do it better. And so hopefully they've taken some of the criticism from Aria, because I don't think I'm the only person that's complained about it. Hopefully they take some of the Aria criticism, improve upon it for Maxima and whatever else, again, is coming. And but that's really the thing. I'm worried that Nissan is kind of having a little spike in popularity, and they will have a good run for the next year or two, and maybe be like, wow, like Nissan's turning it around. We have new Armada. We have, Maran has been spied. That's most likely coming soon. We have, Kicks is great. Sentra has already been great. Ultima may go away and might not get, reintroduced till some kind of electric thing like Maxima or whatever. But we'll see a lot of these new products finally coming online, and then those will last a while, obviously, so it's not like that hype is going to die off super quick. But then I just feel like it's going to kind of be like, they turn the tap on and it's flowing with great products here for the next 12 to 24 months. And then it's going to kind of like the tap's going to turn off, and then we're going to have EVs that might be lackluster. Maybe they will be good. Again, I'm going to be optimistic until I'm shown otherwise. But I think that's my concern. Is short term, I think Nissan is doing very well. Will they be doing well long term? I don't know. I hope they still do more partnership stuff, of sharing some components with overseas brands. Kicks actually is based on, I believe they said, a Renault kind of basis for just the chassis. The powertrain and stuff is Nissan, but I think some parts of the platform itself came from Renault, if I remember correctly. And there's a little bit of European parts sharing there for Kicks, and I think it it has made kicks better and opened them up to having the all-wheel drive thing while not spending giant amounts of money for a new platform completely, So I think I'd love to see more of that. I'd love to see them partner up with the European brands, bring more of the European stuff over here, focus on affordability, since again, it's been a huge, hit with Sentra, with kicks. Keep that going and focus on that. I don't think there's any shame in being the cheaper brand and being the value proposition. Hyundai made a very good living off of it for a long time, and I think still does in a lot of ways too. But, I think Nissan needs to embrace the fact that they aren't Toyota or Honda, and they might not ever be, and that's okay. There's still a place for them. They still sell a ton of Nissans, and there's still really good values and really good options for a lot of people, even if they don't last a million miles, like a comparable Toyota or Honda or whatever, So, so that's I think my thoughts on Nissan in this current form. I'd love to see them get back to the 90s, 2000s. I think it's just that there's too much change in the industry to let that happen. Because again, they have to make these radical jumps to the EVs and just trying to compete with, again, these new Chinese cars that, may or may not come in and everything else. It's a wildly different time, I think, in a lot of ways. So we will see what happens, but I think, they're stronger with their partnerships and they're doing really good stuff now. So hopefully they keep that going. And, I'm proven wrong on the EVs here. We'll see for the Nissan EVs at least. Good Stick says, Tesla does very good wireless charging. They actually did it right, and I've never had any issues with them. Nice. I've never tested out a Tesla wireless charger, so glad to hear that that's another one that's actually well done. That's great. Thanks for the insight on that. Danny says the wife put 7,000 miles on the Mirage at first, and the husband took over, and then the Mirage did 69,000 miles a year. This was due to business for the husband. 414,000 miles on a Mirage, only 6 years of ownership. Yeah, that is, wow. I mean, I got to say, again, everyone has different circumstances, but if I was going to spend that much time in a car, it would be something more comfortable, more spacious, more safe, more of everything. I would want a rolling sofa if I'm doing 69,000 miles a year. Like, I would want the softest ride, the softest seats, the quietest cabin possible. Yeah, I would not want to be in a Mirage, but kudos to them. They are tougher than I am. Ford Enthusiast says, Matt, I have to agree with you on the wireless charger. I don't use mine at all. Yeah, I think Beth sometimes uses it in the Mach-E, but we hardly ever. Yeah, and even in that, it's pretty crap. I'll put my phone on it, and I mean, it charges, I think, more than a Toyota wireless charger or some of the others. It's not terrible. It's actually pretty well designed, but even it's just such a small contact patch that, if I hit the brakes a little too hard or whatever, like, it'll slide and then it gets off the patch, and then I have to reposition and stuff. So I just don't bother with it. I mean, maybe it's just the fortunate position I'm in, but I usually get a new phone every 2 years, and then my battery usually lasts all day without me needing to constantly be tethered to a charger or whatever. I usually have more than enough battery left at the end of the day. I'm not a super heavy phone user either, so that helps. But yeah, it's never been an issue for me to be like, oh, where's my next charge? I gotta, I just charge it every night and I'm good. And I don't really think about it personally, but I know that's not the case for most people, since again, this is a very high demand thing in cars currently. But Vishal says the wireless charger in our 21 Highlander sucks. We don't even use it, especially since they put it in the wrong place in the center console instead of the front of the dash. Right. I remember that being a poor position for that. Sure. Yeah, I'm glad they fixed that with the new ones, but yeah, it's not really, I mean, with a Grand Highlander at least, but yeah, it was strange the way they did it in that. WNY says all three of my kids were conceived in a Mirage backseat and all in the same week. Well, kudos to you. Sharon Carter says, speaking of Z, I finally did see one on the road. Nice, that's awesome. Glad you're able to see one finally. They are rare though, at least around here. Good Stick says the Toyota CHR was also terrible. When I was looking at subcompact SUVs, the CHR was not practical and was too overstyled. I got a Hyundai Venue instead. Yeah, that was another one that, yeah, Toyota did not do a good job. I mean, it was originally supposed to be a Scion, and it was a whole thing, with that. So it was kind of a tricky situation for Toyota, I think. But, yeah, I never actually drove a CHR. It's one of the few vehicles I never bothered getting as a press vehicle because I was pretty picky with press cars back then. Yeah, I mean, they seem like really solid. I'm sure they run forever, but like you said, yeah, not practical. And that was another one, didn't offer all-wheel drive, and that was part of, I think, the problem with that. But yeah, Venue, he says, a good one too. And Austin says, hey Matt, you should start a second channel called Matt Moran Musings. You could do off the cuff, unscripted content about anything there, like life rants, whiskey reviews, etc. That'd be fun. That would be fun. That's a good idea for a name for a channel as well. I'll have to note that down. Thanks, Austin. But yeah, and I was actually just thinking about this week. I have a running list of like so many good ideas, like so many. I'm actually I don't really like dwell on creativity very much. Like I'm very I don't know, formulaic with the reviews and stuff, but I have so many good ideas for videos and for channels and just things, even like non-car things, non-rant things, not even like Matt Moran things, just like things that I could do like from an anonymous standpoint, of like even like not being on camera and just like doing just things that I think would be funny and entertaining, that I'm just keeping in my back pocket in case I ever need to like reinvent myself someday, or if people just like do not want to watch me talk about cars or watch me at all anymore. Like even then I have like, fun little ideas of like things I could do for content that would be cool new things that I haven't seen at least before that I think could be fun. It's just, again, finding the time to do the zillions of things. I could clone myself 12 times and I'd probably still have too many cars, too many ideas, too many videos that I would want to make that I still wouldn't have time to make, I'm sure. So maybe someday I'm really hoping that maybe someday I can get to a point financially where I can afford to hire an editor, and then that would open up so much stuff. If I could have an editor, because that's the biggest drain on my time. If I just had an editor, I'd be able to do daily uploads, no problem. I'd be able to do way more of these fun side things. I'd be able to spend more time regaining my sanity, doing better videos, being able to just try new things more, and just do so much. So I'm hoping I am working on a few new things, and I'm not going to share them just yet, but I'm hoping to find a couple more ways to hopefully boost earnings a little bit so that I can maybe someday get to a point of having an editor and finally get to that next level like many of my friends have gotten to in the car review world. That really, I think, kind of allowed them to do a lot more content and really explode their channels a lot more. So I think that is really the top goal. That would make my life so much better if I could get a good editor. So we'll see. But I like Matt Moran Musings. Again, I will have to write that down. And I agree. Life rants, whiskey reviews, things like that. Yeah, that'd be fun to do. I do have a lot of thoughts on a lot of things. I also don't know some of those things. You start stepping on toes, and it's one of those things that, like, especially as someone who is putting my thoughts out on cars all the time, like that is one thing. But then to like pull back the curtain all the way about everything about me, that's where, like, I'm sure again there's gonna be things, whether it's politics or just personal preferences about things, if I get too unfiltered, where I think there'd be some people that probably would like me a little bit less than they do currently. So I kind of like keeping myself compartmentalized as well. But I know there's a lot of people that do have a lot of success whenever they do open up and just make it completely raw and all about them, and for better or for worse, here's everything. And but yeah, I just think I like keeping it a little bit more professional. And I really love these live streams. I think this is a place where I'm able to do silly tangents and speak my mind on car related things and kind of do those rants and interact with you guys in a very authentic, just off the cuff kind of way. And this is why as YouTube continues to go more and more towards live content and that being pushed more, I'm embracing it, because again, if it's obviously it makes it harder to do car reviews, but outside of that, like, for every other content thing, like, I love live. It's great doing these, and that's why we've been doing them. This is number 80, and that's when I started numbering them. Before that, it was just like a monthly thing that I did. But I mean, so I think at this point, well over 100 of these live streams that I've done, and they're tons of fun. It's a lot of talking, 2 hours, every week and over 100 times. It's a lot. So there's a lot of unsolicited rambling from me out there online, unfortunately, but and hopefully you guys enjoy it. But I appreciate the suggestion there, Austin, and something I will keep in the back pocket for a rainy day. And TFI says train spotting channel, Matt Maran foamers. I don't even know what that means, but as far as foamers and the context of trains, but I don't think that would be one I would be going for there. But let me see. Thank you, Chad, for another super chat. He says, I had to try to explain to my crew what a Daewoo was. I gave up and told them to watch Taxi. Any other lower level brands you can think of? I mean, there's a lot, over the course of history here that came and went. One of the famous ones from way back long ago, like Rambler, kind of came and went as kind of that budget thing in the 60s in a way. But there's Daewoo. I mean, there's Geo, and there was, even I think there's a few of these brands that they tried for a little bit and then left, like Renault tried. They weren't like a bare bones brand or anything, but them, Citroen, I think all these brands tried briefly. But there's Daewoo, there's a few others like that. Yugo was another one. There's a few. I think Daewoo is probably the most famous one that people can remember from recent memory here. Nate saying Daihatsu, that's another one. Did they actually bring Daihatsus to America? I don't remember. But if so, that's definitely another one Daihatsu, they do a decent amount of stuff overseas, but around here, I don't think I've ever seen a Daihatsu on the road unless it was a 25-year import kind of thing. But let me see other questions here. Good Stick says, I saw a 2017 Toyota Sienna SE with fake carbon fiber on the door panel. Looked terrible. Yeah, it's especially the fake stuff. And then on the minivan, it's I don't understand it. There was also another little quick thing. We were walking the neighborhood here this week, and there was someone parked that had it was a second gen BMW X5. And it was just like a 35 version, but it had an M badge on the back. And obviously we've all seen people, throwing badges on cars that should not be on them. But that's another one of those things where it's who are you fooling? And same thing with the fake carbon fiber. I mean, I guess with carbon fiber, if you like the look, that's one thing. But on a base, regular X5, you throw an M badge next to the X5M thing. He tried to make it look like it was an X5M. It's do people actually are people convinced by this? Is it just something that like makes you feel good to pretend you have an M? It would depress me reminding myself that I'm a fraud that doesn't actually have an X5M. Like if I had that, I never have understood the fake badges on cars. Like why? I just feel like that's not gratifying for you. It probably doesn't actually change anyone else's mind about your car. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. Everyone's different, I guess. But kind of to me, that's bundled in with a fake carbon fiber of like, you're a fraud. Most other people that know what they're talking about know you're a fraud. And then, the randos might be impressed, but do you actually care about impressing them? Maybe. I don't know. Whatever. It's just, it's kind of funny. B. Mitchell says, aha, so that's how he would keep Beth out of his next car. Special order with piano black interior trim. Absolutely, yes. If that were the case, yeah, Beth would have no parts of it because no piano black for sure. Although I'm sure she'd make an exception for the Rolls Royce because that Spectre had some piano black, although it wasn't plastic, obviously. It was actual piano black wood, like, probably taken from a piano or something. But, that's the only kind I think she would probably make an exception for. Good Stick says Toyota in general use parts for a very long time, especially with their transmissions and engines. Yep, and that's what people I think love about them in a lot of ways. Spy Harpy says matte carbon fiber may be okay with me in subtle areas like door trim, but glossy carbon fiber just looks like cheap plastic and looks very tacky. I won't put it on my NSX. Nice. Well, that's cool because I'm sure there's a lot of people that do make carbon fiber stuff for those, and Yeah, but that's also something like I feel like there wasn't a lot of use of carbon fiber back then. So especially on historic vehicles that added on, then you definitely know that it's aftermarket, and it's like to me almost takes away from like the period correctness for those that are trying to kind of still have the vibe of the decade the car was built in, and are trying to modernize it. It just kind of is a mismatch of vibes, in my opinion. And hope your NSX is doing well, Spy Heartbeat too. It's awesome you still have that and still enjoying it. Nathaniel says, I can't see the Ultima being any more boring than an Accord or Camry. Plus, the Accord still doesn't offer all-wheel drive, yet the Honda isn't significantly cheaper than all-wheel drive cars. It's like they don't care. I agree. And that is one thing, I got to give Ultima credit. They did, add in the all-wheel drive there to compete with Camry, and they reacted to that, which is great, so that was good. But I mean, compared to especially the newest, but even like last gen Accord and last gen Camry, I'd rather have those over Ultima too. Like it is, trust me, like it is, it is definitely more boring. Accord and Camry were pretty good in my opinion. I like the past and current gens of Accord and Camry. They're really good cars. And Ultima, again, it's fine other than, again, the throttle just being super laggy. Yeah, definitely. They're not boring in my opinion for Accord and Camry these days. And Grant, thanks for stopping by. Steven says, expectations on 2026 RAV4 redesign. Will the redesign follow similar design cues of 4Runner or current Highlander? I think what we've seen is that, the transition to a more rugged looking RAV4 with the current generation paid off. It, is still, I think, the best selling RAV4 ever, and it's, still doing really, really well. So I would assume you will see more of that because the trend is still for rugged stuff. That's what everyone wants in the market in general these days. And so they're going to follow that, I'm sure. So my guess would be, I think actually instead of trying to look at it from like 4Runner or Highlander perspective, I would try and look at it kind of at least as far as the extent of the changes. It may end up being the same thing like Camry, where it is a heavy redo and there are some key changes, but it might be the same kind of thing where they stick with a similar kind of packaging and basis. And so same kind of evolution you saw from last gen Camry to this gen Camry. I could very easily see RAV4 going in that same direction of having obviously new headlights, new taillights, new grille, new bumpers, significant differences, but then you might see the doors still be the same, and obviously a whole new interior, but you might see interior space be basically the same, just like with current, new Camry compared to the old one, because again, it's just a heavy refresh for Camry. It's not all new. So, again, going back to again how Toyota especially is really good at keeping cars going that have dated origins. I could see, since RAV4 is still fantastic seller. Oh, we had a light flicker. Maybe that storm is coming back. I don't know. But with those that momentum that they have with RAV4, they could very well just do incremental changes and stick pretty close to current styling, just freshen it up a little bit. Do similar kind of new LEDs like you see on Camry, and same interior you see on Camry pretty much, aside from making it a little more rugged. But I could see that kind of same stuff kind of transplanting in. That's my best guess for RAV4. Again, I know nothing. Like I mentioned earlier in the live stream here, I don't know when it's coming. If it is actually coming for 2026, I would assume it is. I think I've heard rumors that is the case. But they could also take their time with it because, again, it's still selling so well. So we will see. I think also, you should probably expect it's going to also do the same change as Camry and go hybrid only. I think I've been hearing that as well in the rumor mill. They may think that, RAV4 buyer is different than a Camry buyer and won't take kindly to that as much as Camry buyers might. But I would say that's probably a safe bet for them to try and just go all hybrid for those as well. So that's another thing that, if you're excited about new RAV4, just be prepared for hybrid being the only choice, because that's a very, strong chance of that, in my opinion. And let me see. I see Ford enthusiasts agreeing about the dual clutch there. Goodstick says, speaking of Mitsubishi, a buddy of mine has an Endeavor, which is a 2-row midsize SUV. It has a 4-speed transmission and a 3.8-liter V6, producing just 215 horsepower. It's an '07, so I can forgive it. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of good stuff. The Montero, I think there's been rumors of a Montero coming back. And that's another one, just like, and even the Samurai, I remember that's Suzuki, but Mitsubishi, they had something like that, right? I don't know, but they should be doing all those types of things of, having a small little rugged crossover, having a big chunky big crossover. And especially, again, you're partnering up with Nissan, talk them into letting you use the Armada platform and all the platforms instead of just the Rogue One. But I mean, even the Rogue One, they used that and that worked out well for the Outlander. Like, why are we not seeing this with all the new Mitsubishi products? It's just like way too slow of a rollout. And I guess it's just no investment there for Mitsubishi. I don't know what the holdup is, because it doesn't seem like it's rocket science, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, they're not getting any love from the R&D side, I guess. He says it has over 200,000 miles as well. That's impressive. He also says the Nissan Ariya has very clever interior utilization, especially with a pop-out glove box and movable center console. Yeah, it's clever, but it's not very practical, at least in my opinion, just because of, like, I put my sunglasses in that center console and it's cool, except it's power operated, right? If I remember correctly. So it's like you have to like press a button and like wait for it to come out. And it just takes longer than just like flipping open a cover. So it's one of those things. It's like a cool party trick, and it's a cool thing if you want to feel like you're in something futuristic every day and you don't mind spending the extra 3 seconds staring at your, glove box waiting for it to open up or whatever. It's really cool. And I actually like the interior design, if there are like hidden buttons and stuff. And it's a roomy vehicle. I'll give it that. They did a good job on that stuff. Styling is fine as well, in my opinion. It's just, again, the way that the engineers set up the inputs is just not good, in my opinion. Let me see. So Zachary says, I smile every time Matt says the word chassis. Everyone else hits the CH so hard, and he says it so lightly, like chassis. Brilliant. Yeah, I think I'm saying it correctly. I could be saying it wrong. Maybe I'm saying the British version of that, because I've always heard of chassis. I know a lot of people say chassis, but I think that's a very Americanized way of saying it. I don't know which is technically correct, but oh yeah, that's funny. Maybe it's one of those things I adopted from Top Gear and never looked back on. I don't know. And Chadwick says, I have a CX-50 and have an iPhone. The MagSafe charger slots into a perfect spot in the center console. I used a command strip, and it's fantastic. Interesting. That's a very creative way to go about it. Yeah, you're doing your own thing better. You probably saved yourself a bunch of money as well. So that's a good idea. I feel like if you had the time and the money, that would be a fun little thing to try and like commercially produce. If someone hasn't done that already, doing your own little like workaround there and just popping it in there, that's probably, yeah, you can do it so much better than the OEMs are, I'm sure. And Justin says, just recently took a trip from Columbus, Ohio to Chicago in my girlfriend's manual Mitsubishi Mirage. Surprisingly comfortable and great MPGs, also perfect for tight city driving. That's great. There's a lot of Mirage love in here tonight. I'm not opposed. That's cool. And glad that it was comfortable. Again, I've never been in it, so I guess I shouldn't knock it if I haven't tried it. But that's impressive. Glad it was, yeah, especially for Chicago. Yeah, great little car for a city. And yeah, glad it worked out well for you. That's awesome. Goodstick says, if you had time, all the members, and you could play Burnout Paradise and compete the many challenges in the game on the weekend, that could be fun to play video games together for sure. That would be, yeah, another fun thing. Like I've mentioned in the past, I'd love to even just break out my old memory. I have my old memory card from my PS1 and PS2. I think I have my PS2 one. All my save games, I'd love to just open up and like go through my garage on Gran Turismo 2 and stuff. It'd be so fun. It's, again, just another one of those, like, if I ever have the time kind of ideas, but maybe someday. And And let me see. Good Stick says 5.0 badges on EcoBoost make my blood boil. Yeah, that's another one. It's, I mean, yeah, I guess, they're trying to impress people that don't have any clue of what they're looking at, and can't tell the differences and stuff. But yeah, it makes no sense to me. Chad says, we have a Lexus Corolla in my neighborhood, man. That's, yeah, I'm not even going to try and rationalize any of these choices these people make, because I can't find a way to do it. WNY says, another Mirage money saver is the streetwalkers don't charge you as much. I don't get the reference there, but that's yeah, I don't even know what you mean by streetwalkers there, but yeah, it's, man, maybe I'm really being sold on the idea of doing a Mirage video now, because it's a lot of love here. That's funny. Ben says, hey Matt, do you feel like you're able to turn off your work brain when you're not filming, editing / driving, or is that a burden always with you? That's an interesting question. Yeah, I think I am able to turn it off. I try and do a pretty good job of separating work life from home life, just because working from home, it can really kind of take over if you let it, especially me, again, having backlogs and having, this ever present pressure on me. And I mean, there is some of that always lingers with me. Like, I'm looking for excuses to drive whenever I'm on the weekends with the family. Like, I'm like, hey, let's try and go to the farther away restaurant or whatever, because I need to put miles on this car so I can do a good fuel economy test, and and not say I drove it 3 miles and not be able to talk about fuel economy or things like that. There's some of those things, but I mean, I think, especially, like once 5 o'clock hits, most days, at least from 5 until our daughter goes to bed, I'm able to be like, okay, like, I'm almost never on my phone. I'm just focused on them. I'm, just in the moment and trying to be present as best as I possibly can. There are some times though where, a negative comment will linger with me, or there will be some pressing thing that I need to, handle afterwards, that I need to edit later in the evening or whatever, those types of things where, I have things hanging over my head a little bit, where I'm thinking about work stuff when I maybe shouldn't be. But yeah, I feel like that's one thing I've done a pretty good job of in the past almost decade now of working from home, is just being able to separate that just for my own sanity. And there's, again, I do work a lot. I do like a lot of evenings. I mean, this is Sunday night and I'm here. I mean, this isn't really work, from a mental standpoint for me, because this is easy and fun, but it's, it still is just time that I'm, doing something for the channels. There is some of that, but it's not really burdensome. I think it's just a very intense burden during the 9 to 5 hours or whatever. And then I'm doing a pretty good job, I think, of turning it off, when I need to, thankfully. But thank you for the question. I see all the support there as well. So thanks so much, everyone. And let me see. Good Stick says, I remember one of your Carfax videos, you questioned the taste of the owner who bought one of your Mustangs. Yeah. The one, I guess it kind of makes sense. The one that had the salvage title or whatever, the one that got wrecked, twice. Yeah, the person the body shop that bought it off of me, they put like a spoiler on the back and they did a couple little things, and that was fine. But then it ended up in Illinois, and then it was in Missouri, and in Missouri, it picked up red, like plastic dipped red badging on, that guard green color, which is, a dark, greenish gray with red badges. I'm like, they must have loved Christmas, because I don't know why you would do red badges on a green car otherwise. And it was like all the badges, the pony badge, the little caps on the wheels, the thing on the back. I think there's even stuff on the inside. And yeah, again, everyone's different. If we all drove the same thing, it'd be a boring world. But I really wonder, it's strange. And especially, I think the fake badging to me, it's helped me kind of understand some of the delusional thinking that happens in our society these days in a lot of ways, and just people just selling themselves on complete BS ideas that It's like if you can rationalize, like, yeah, I have an X5M because I put an M badge on the back and I feel cool about that. Like, it's easier to understand how those people make a leap to feeling good about, some other interesting, positions that they might have. It's just kind of, again, people are funny. Human beings are quite the thing. But let me see. Vishal says, weird thing I saw today. Someone wrapped their current gen Highlander roof in black, kind of like how a Camry with a black roof looked terrible on the Highlander. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I embrace two-tone stuff. I think it's kind of cool for a lot of vehicles, but it has to be done right and done well. I think sometimes, either the cut line is weird or it's not the best execution. Yeah, it could be kind of a strange inclusion, but I'd be curious to see that because I might not hate that myself, honestly. And Chad says it's crazy how talking about cars, we're doing a loose economics class, right? Yeah, because unfortunately that is kind of the make it or break it for a lot of the fun cars that we want and don't get. Is it all comes down to the economics of it. And Vishal says I've also found it strange how RAV4 went the more square, rugged look, while Highlander went with the soft design. Yeah, and I think this is why Grand Highlander kind of got back to that squared off kind of thing in a way. And we will see what they do with new Highlander, but they might stick with the softer thing if the rumors are correct that Highlander will become the electric 3-row EV for Toyota, and then that could obviously be more smoothed over for better aerodynamics and stuff. So we'll see. And Chad says Mirage so hated it's loved. Yeah, I mean maybe there's some of that as well, where it's kind of getting a following all its own just because of that negativity. And Kamani, thank you for a super chat. Sorry, I missed it till now. They're asking SUV/sedan with V8 for 30 grand with modern safety tech. That's a tough one. I mean, I guess it comes down to exactly what you mean by modern safety tech. If you mean airbags, versus if you mean like technology of like automatic emergency braking and all that kind of stuff, you're kind of stuck there, I think. Because I don't know if any of those things have depreciated to 30 grand quite yet. I'm trying to think. I mean, I'd say Chevy SS is one. Obviously, Charger, Challenger. I guess you're saying sedan, so Charger is another one. You could probably get for 30 grand now with modern safety tech. So that's probably the way to go for that. Probably the easiest way to go would be Charger, honestly. Durango could give you that probably as well. What else could do that? If you go back, then you're not getting the modern safety tech. So I'm trying to think out loud here. Yeah, I'd say Durango and Charger are probably your best bet, to be completely honest. I'd say Chevy SS, yeah, it may, but I don't even know again if that has automatic emergency braking. I don't remember if they offered that kind of stuff on it. And yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else. Like Lexus IS 500 is going to be too expensive. ISF, I mean, again, that's not modern safety tech, but it should have like maybe blind spot monitoring and stuff like that. Could be another one, maybe under 30. I'm not sure what ISF pricing is like these days. But yeah, there's probably a few others. It just comes down to your definition of modern there. But I think if you're talking like most modern, newish kind of stuff, I think Charger is going to be your best bet there. And TFI says, wait, did I just successfully Mirage PSYOP Subaru X fan? Yeah, I mean, I'll go where what people want to see. If people want to see a Mirage review, even just for the lulz, I will do that. That is not off the table. Again, I can't promise it this year because it's not happening this year, unfortunately. But maybe over the winter into the spring, if it can be truly easy to do, I can do it at one of the local dealers or something. I can be open to that potentially. It would be fun just because I've never driven really into those old 80s hatchbacks, and so the Mirage would be like the closest way to get to something like that without going to the super old stuff. So that's maybe might actually happen. And TFI also is weighing in there. about a Genesis with the 5-liter. That's a good idea. Yeah, I did a review of one of those 2012 Hyundai Genesis V8. Those have the 5-liter V8. Really awesome car. Also, you could probably even get the more recent version, not the current Gen G80, but the prior Gen G80. Excuse me, before it was called the G80. That's Hyundai Genesis. Those came with a V8 as well. I believe those you can get definitely under 30 because I did a video about how cheap they are. And this was like a year or two ago. They were in the low 20s even at that point. Excuse me. That was with the regular V6, but the V8 I think was only a couple grand more. So yes, that's actually a better recommendation because the Chargers and the Challengers and stuff, I mean, it's kind of played out. And honestly, I think it's classier with the Genesis there for sure. So that's probably the way to go. And yeah, if you can find like a used Kia K900 with the V8, or yeah, the Hyundai, yeah, that's the way to go. Good call there, TFI. Good Stick says, I recently drove a friend's 2010 RAV4. I love the trunk lid that you had to put the left instead of pulling up as there's a spare in the back. With the spare tire removed, the RAV4s look weird. I agree. I always like them better with the spare tire on the back. So that could be a fun thing to bring back for the new ones for sure. And I see we are over time by 8 minutes. Time flies. So I will wrap it up here soon. But let me see. Last few questions here. Chad says, I call those cars the Pep Boys specials for maybe the Mirage there. Good Stick says, also putting Evolution badges and body panels on a base Lancer is also hilarious. Yeah, especially because it's like you're not going to win any races. You're not going to like, again, car people know, like they can figure that stuff out. So like you're not impressing them. You know, I don't think you're impressing regular people. They don't care if you have an Evo or not. So like, yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, I guess if you like the look or whatever, more power to you, but yeah, it's a lot of work for not a whole lot of reward, in my opinion. But Chad says, thanks for another great chat, Matt, and everyone else. I agree. Thank you all so much for a great time here tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll sign off. I see Growth Rocker says, my friend loved his ISF. That car was amazing. He made a fatal mistake getting an Audi. Told him not to do it. Man, yeah, should have kept the ISF. And Chad says, Chat of the Mirage. Yep, it's been the theme of the night. And Garth Rocker says he traded the ISF for an Audi A7. Nothing but headaches. Said he regrets it daily, looking for another Lexus. Nice. Well, hopefully he can get back into one at some point. But sorry, the A7 was not good to him. Yeah, it's those used German vehicles. Got to get an extended warranty, and even then, you have the headaches of having to take it into the dealer all the time because they can be problematic. Some people have good luck, but I recommend an extended warranty if you're getting something used in European. But anyway, Goth says, hope Mitsubishi surprises us one day. I agree, hopefully. But anyway, see Good Six saying good night. And yeah, thanks everyone so much. Hope you all have a great rest of your evening. Have a great week, everyone. Hope it's a better week for all of us in all the ways, after this crazy week of storms and bad luck and all that. So hope everyone has a better week here going forward. And stay tuned for some more good stuff here on the channel this week. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.